is Dr. Scott Kilberg, the Video Foot Doc, here with another video for you on all things foot and ankle. Today I'm going to talk about arthritis in the big toe. Now, in previous videos I've covered over the more common variation of arthritis in the big toe, which is basically arthritis in the big toe joint, or the joint that forms the base of the toe. However, there is another joint inside the big toe that can also become arthritic. And this one is actually a little bit more of a problem to treat because it doesn't respond as easily to the larger joint that sits at the base of the big toe. If you look at a bone model of the foot and look at the big toe, this is basically the big toe right here. And the part of the big toe that often becomes arthritic is back here at its base where it meets the long bone of the foot. This is called the metatarsal phalangeal joint, and that bends the toe upward. Well, there's another joint inside the toe, particularly where you can see the knuckle of the big toe, and this joint is called the interphalangeal joint, and basically it consists of one of the phalanxes in the bone, or those small bones within the toe, connecting with the other bone. And there are two bones that are inside the big toe. In all the other toes there's actually three, and so therefore there's actually two interphalangeal joints. But in the big toe there's only one. And this is basically the toe or the joint right here, and this is where that toe bends. Now, this joint does not usually become arthritic with wear and tear. The joint itself doesn't have a great deal of motion, or at least the motion that it has isn't as important as the other joint, the metatarsal phalangeal joint, which is more commonly becomes arthritic. However, this joint can become degenerative and become arthritic due to a number of different reasons. The most common reason why it would become arthritic is simply due to having a previous toe fracture that didn't heal or set quite right. And so the cartilage becomes damaged because the bone is out of place after it heals, and the cartilage can become worn. And sometimes the actual joint itself is disrupted in these fractures, and that creates instant damage to the joint, which becomes worse over time. Another way that this joint can become irritated is if there is significant arthritis of the big toe joint, the metatarsal phalangeal joint itself, and the toe simply can't bend upward as much. And in the case of that, this toe joint, this interphalangeal joint, actually has to try to bend up a little bit more to try to get the toe to do at least some sort of motion to accommodate one when they're walking. And in this case, that joint will become arthritic over time, just like the bigger joint, because it simply is trying to adapt to less motion in the bigger joint and has to move more excessively. And that joint's not really designed to be able to sort of bend upward like that, and that can create over time arthritic spurring and damage to the joint itself. You can also have other types of injuries that can occur to this joint, such as injuries to the ligament or significant stubbing injuries that can also sort of put the motion of the joint out of place, and over time that can also create arthritic changes. And some certain diseases such as gout and other types of chronic inflammatory conditions can gradually cause wear and tear to form in the joint surface because of depositing of certain materials, like in the case of gout, uric acid crystals and other types of things during those that particular process, inflammation process, that can also cause destructive changes to the interphalangeal joint and create arthritis in the big toe joint as well. Now, treatment for arthritis of this inner joint within the big toe is basically a little different than treatment for the big toe joint arthritis, or the metatarsal phalangeal joint. In that case, you can sometimes often successfully use an implant to try to replace one side of the joint that's been destroyed, and that works really well. Well, in this smaller joint, you don't really have an implant as an option. So basically what you have to do is either remove part of the bone that forms that joint, or you need to fuse the two bones together so there's no motion at all. Now, the fusion procedure probably works a bit better by giving a consistent sort of solid sort of lever to the actual bone structure, and with the reduction of complete motion, there shouldn't be anything that should hurt anymore. But sometimes that's not a good idea because of general health issues and inability to be able to heal bone because the bone's too porous or has too many cysts in it, various other different reasons. And sometimes a much more simpler procedure needs to be performed, in which part of that bone particularly this part right here on this side of the joint needs to simply be removed. Now that creates sort of a space that also kind of acts as a joint so that the toe can still bend upward and downward at that space where the joint used to be. It creates a little bit more instability in the big toe itself. However, from a functional standpoint, it still works pretty well and is a decent option for those in whom a fusion is not such a good idea. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please look for more video on all things foot and ankle on this site as well as others, or you may check out my website at www.inpodiatrygroup.com. Thank you.